Isabel Allende was born in Lima, Peru on August 2nd, 1942. Her father left Isabel and her family when she was 2. They subsequently moved to Chile, where they stayed until 1953. Isabel went on to get married and began working as an editor for 2 magazines. It should be noted that Allende was related to Salvador Allende, president of Chile. In 1973, a coup led by Augusto Pinochet overthrew the government, and the Allende family became threatened by assassination. Isabel fled to Venezuela. There, she wrote her first novel, The House of Spirits, in 1982. She became a writer for El Nacional, a prominent newspaper in Venezuela. Allende has credited her writing career to her move to Venezuela. She went on to write Paula, detailing her childhood and time in exile. Another book Allende published was El Cuaderno de Mayo. In 1996, she created the Isabel Allende Foundation in remembrance of her daughter Paula, who had died 4 years prior. It focuses on support programs for women and men. Reinaldo Arenas was born on July 16, 1943, in the Holguin province of Cuba. He later moved to the city of Holguin as a teenager. He got a job at a guava paste factory. Things were calm. Then he joined Cuban guerrilla forces in 1958, the same guerrilla forces that led the Cuban Revolution and put Fidel Castro in power the following year. Afterwards, he became a researcher for the José Martí National Library in 1963, and a journalist for La Gaceta de Cuba in 1968. He published his first novel, Celestino Antes del Alba, in 1967. His second novel, El Mundo Alucinante, had to be smuggled out of Cuba. Sexuality was a large part of Reinaldo's writing and lifestyle. In fact, he admitted to having affairs with at least 5,000 men. Not very surprisingly, he was imprisoned by the Cuban government in the 1970s for being openly homosexual. He escaped to the United States in 1980 and began publishing books again, including Otra vez el mar, La Loma del Ángel, and La Vieja Rosa. He was diagnosed with AIDS in 1987, and he committed suicide 3 years later.
Allende and Arenas both had many similarities and differences. Both were Latin American and wrote about the political events of their countries, and both of them wrote mainly prose and in novels. Allende was Chilean and created anti-imperialist, anti-military writing, and Arenas was Cuban, and his writing was more anti-communist and anti-socialist. Allende fled to Venezuela to escape the threat of assassination after General Augusto Pinochet overthrew her family's government. Arenas fled to the United States to escape the Cuban government's internment of gay men in labor camps. Allende's writing involved more magical realism novels, while Arenas wrote mainly poetry and historical novels. Arenas would often create writing about gay sexuality exploration, while Allende focused on the state of Chile. Allende escaped Chile before she could get caught, but Arenas was arrested multiple times for speaking out against the Cuban government. Arenas committed suicide via overdose after struggling with AIDS. However, Allende is still alive and resides in California with her husband.
The following is an excerpt from what is perhaps Allende's most famous work, The House of the Spirits. He could hardly guess that the solemn, cubic, dense, pompous house, which sat like a hat amidst its green and geometric surroundings, would end up full of protuberances and incrustations, of twisted staircases that led to empty spaces, of turrets, or small windows and could not be opened, doors hanging in mid-air, crooked hallways, and portholes that linked the living quarters so that people could communicate during the siesta, all of which were Clara's inspiration. Imagery is heavily utilized. Words and phrases such as solemn, staircases leading to empty spaces, windows that cannot be opened, crooked hallways, portholes that link to living quarters, all give a sense of abandonment and decrepitness. All of which was Clara's inspiration, suggests that even though the house was in poor condition and unable to be repaired, the residents became used to it, even growing fond of it. Solemn, cubic, dense, and pompous evoke a sense of gloominess and lethargy. It also makes the house seem tight and claustrophobic. Doors hanging in midair adds to this, but along with staircases that lead to empty spaces, it also makes the place seem eerie and bizarre. This is an excerpt from Arenas' book, Farewell to the Sea, part of a series called Pentagonia. There is only now a great silence. A silence that is as unbearable as the worst scandal. A great silence and a darkness without order. I walk, I try to walk, and I touch nothing. Only emptiness, the silence and the great darkness. I squeeze my eyes even tighter, and out of the black I see less shadows. Something moves. Differences of darkness. I let go of my eyelids. Little by little the black clears up. The shadows are parting. The contrast, the light is here. The focus is on silence and darkness, immediately creating an ominous tone, saying, as unbearable as the worst scandal regarding the silence, and darkness without order regarding the darkness, makes the two seem not calming, but discomforting and unfamiliar. This is further supported by the words, I try to walk, and I touch nothing, only emptiness. A shift is created with, I see less black shadows, difference in darkness, and the contrast, the light is here. The tone shifts towards optimism and a sense of positivity. The mood becomes lighter.